The whispering shadows in the small, unassuming town of Eldridge Hollow, shadows danced in the corners of dimly lit rooms, and whispers echoed through the empty streets at night. Most residents had learned to ignore these peculiarities, attributing them to old buildings settling or the wind rustling through the trees. But for Sarah, a new arrival with a curious spirit, the town's eerie reputation was impossible to overlook. Sarah had moved to Eldridge Hollow seeking a fresh start after a painful breakup. She rented a small, quaint house on the outskirts, its weathered facade and creaking floorboards giving it a character she found charming. However, as the days turned into weeks, she began to notice odd occurrences. At night, she often heard faint whispers drifting through the air, as though the house itself was alive with secrets. Sometimes, she thought she could see fleeting shadows darting just out of her line of sight. Determined to uncover the truth behind the town's mysteries, Sarah began to research its history. She visited the local library, where dusty tomes told tales of a tragedy that had befallen Eldridge Hollow over a century ago. A fire had consumed the old church, taking the lives of several townsfolk. According to legend, the souls of the deceased never left, trapped within the remnants of their former lives, whispering to those who dared to listen. One night, drawn by an inexplicable urge, Sarah decided to explore the abandoned church. Armed with a flashlight and a notebook, she navigated through the overgrown path leading to the charred remains. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow on the ruins. As she approached, she felt a chill run down her spine, but her curiosity pushed her forward. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of damp wood and ash. Shadows flickered in the corners of her vision, and the whispers grew louder, swirling around her like a haunting melody. "Help us," they seemed to say, "free us." Heart pounding, Sarah swept her flashlight across the room, illuminating the crumbling walls and shattered pews. On one wall, she noticed a series of strange symbols etched into the stone. They seemed to pulse with energy, drawing her closer. As she traced her fingers over the markings, a sudden gust of wind extinguished her flashlight, plunging her into darkness. Panic surged through her as she fumbled in her bag for matches. Just as she struck one, she heard it, a soft, sorrowful cry echoing through the church. "Help us, please," the voice was clear now, desperate and pleading. "Who's there?" Sarah called, her voice shaky. The shadows swirled around her, coalescing into indistinct forms that flickered just beyond her sight. She felt a presence, something ancient and sorrowful, closing in around her. "What do you want?" The shadows seemed to respond, swirling closer, and she could almost make out faces twisted in anguish. "Free us, break the curse," they whispered in unison, their voices a haunting chorus. Determined to understand, Sarah began to search for answers. She spent the next few days digging deeper into the town's history, uncovering tales of betrayal and sorrow that had given rise to the curse. The townsfolk had turned on one another during the fire, blaming each other for the tragedy, sealing their fates in hatred. As she pieced together the story, Sarah felt a growing connection to the spirits trapped in the church. They were not just shadows, they were the echoes of lives cut short, yearning for redemption. She realized that to free them, she needed to confront the past, to bring the truth to light. With each passing night, the whispers grew more insistent. They called to her, urging her to return to the church. On the evening of the full moon, Sarah gathered her courage and made her way back. The air was electric with anticipation, and the shadows danced more wildly than before. Inside the ruins, she lit candles, creating a circle of flickering light. The whispers enveloped her, a cacophony of sorrowful voices. "You have come," they said, "to help us." "I want to help," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. Tell me what I must do." The shadows coalesced, forming a figure, the spirit of a woman, her face etched with pain. "We were wronged. Betrayed by those we trusted. You must uncover the truth, let the town know what happened." Taking a deep breath, Sarah nodded. "I will. I promise." As she spoke, the shadows began to swirl around her, pulling her deeper into their memories. Images flashed before her eyes, the church ablaze, terrified townsfolk, accusations thrown like daggers. She felt their anguish, their regret, and their desperate need for closure. Then, just as suddenly, she was released, collapsing to the ground. The whispers subsided, but Sarah knew what she had to do. She had to confront the town, share the story of the betrayal, and bring the truth to light. The next day, she organized a town meeting, inviting the residents to share what she had discovered. As she spoke, recounting the tragic events, the room fell silent. Faces turned pale, and whispers of disbelief rippled through the crowd. But Sarah pressed on, recounting the pain and the sorrow that had gripped Eldridge Hollow for generations. "Only by confronting the truth can we free those who are trapped," she urged, her voice strong. "We must remember them, acknowledge their pain, and seek forgiveness." Slowly, the townsfolk began to speak up. They shared their own stories, their own burdens of guilt and regret. As the truth unraveled, the atmosphere shifted. The weight of the past began to lift, and for the first time in decades, the town felt a glimmer of hope. That night, Sarah returned to the church, feeling a different energy in the air. The shadows that had once felt oppressive now seemed lighter, almost joyful. As she lit her candles, the whispers returned, but this time they were filled with gratitude. "Thank you," they said, their voices a gentle breeze. "You have freed us." In that moment, Sarah felt a warmth envelop her, a sense of peace washing over her. The shadows began to fade, their forms dissolving into the ether. She understood that, at last, the spirits of Eldridge Hollow could rest. As she left the ruins, the moon shone brightly overhead, illuminating her path. The once haunting whispers now felt like a soft lullaby, a reminder of the healing power of truth and forgiveness. Sarah had come to Eldridge Hollow seeking a fresh start, and in doing so, she had not only changed her own life but had also helped a town heal from its past.